Hello fellow hunters of the blue, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to Heavy Contrast Marines. This is a series where I try to paint a space marine to the highest level I can get it to the heavy metal team using contrast paints and highlights. And in this episode, as you can see, we are painting space wolves. But before we start, I have to do a small disclaimer here. In this video I'm using an OOP product. This is Guilliman Blue. I use this to tint the color of the armor a bit more bluer, because I feel Space Wolf's Grey is not blue enough, it's too grey for me. If you don't have Guilliman Blue, it's not the end of the world, you can make your own. I will give you two options to make your own Guilliman Blue. You can use Vallejo Game Ink Blue or Contrast Talazar Blue. What you have to do with any of these paints is mix 1 part of any of these with 4 parts of medium. If you are using them as a contrast paint, use obviously contrast medium. My suggestion is you make a small batch of this in advance and just use it for the recipe I'm giving you. So with that out of the way, I really hope you enjoyed the video, and of course, let's get cracking. As you can see, we are starting from a Gracier base spray, and the first thing I will do is layer over all his armor, all the grey parts of his armor, a mix of 1 part Apothecary White, 1 part Space Wolf's Grey and 1 part Guilliman Blue. I already explained how you can make your own Guilliman Blue, but in case you missed it, go check this video. As always, be careful when you apply this, go section by section and brush the direction you want the shadows to deposit. Our first coat of our custom mix is now dry, and I'm going to do a second one, just the same as we did all over the armor. Our second coat of the custom mix is completely dry, and as you can see, we already have the exact match for the Space Wolf's color. And I'm going to start highlighting it. For this I'm using first of all Fenrisian Grey. I will just do an edge highlight of this all around the armor. Also, on the rounded parts like the knee pads, what I like to do is do a glaze on the top part to help create the effect of a reflection and some volume. Our highlight of Fenrisian Grey is now completed, and I'm going to do another one using Blue Horror. Just make the same highlight as you did before, only smaller this time. For the rounded parts, just do the same again, only try to make that spot of light a bit smaller this time. Our highlight of blue horror is now done, and I'm going to do a last one using Ulthuan Grey. This will just be small dots in the highest highlight points. You can already see with just one leg done how much difference it makes, that last highlight. Our last highlight is now done, and with that the blue armor is completed. I'm going to move into the yellow parts, and for that I'm going to knead them up using Wraithbone. I will also apply a Wraithbone on his mask and on his hair. Our base coat of Wraithbone is now done, and I'm going to go over all the yellow parts, which will be the two pauldrons with the end in yellow. Our Yandan yellow is now dry, and I'm going to highlight it using Phalanx yellow. Remember, in the rounded parts, you should do a spot highlight, just glazing some of the Phalanx yellow. Same here. And now for the last highlight on the yellow parts, I'm going to use Dawn yellow. With the yellow on our shoulders now completely finished, it's time to move into base coating all the areas that won't be metal. I will use Corax White for this and just go on doing that all around the model. Our cleanup of with Corax White is now finished, and I'm going to base coat all the areas that will be black rubber, like the joints on his armor and the tube here with Grief Charger Grey. When the grip charger grey dries, I'm going to base coat all the areas that are bone with a skeleton hold. Then I will base coat his hair using Freehand orange. The grip charger grey is now dry, and I'm going to move into black tempera all over all those parts. Be very careful not to mess up any of your highlights on the armor, but if you do, it's as easy as going back to your highlight colors and reapply them. While the last couple of patches of black tempera dry, I'm going to do a couple more base coats, and starting with Gilliman flesh over his face. And also Volupus pink on the wax seal on his purity on the wax, and also Volupus pink on the wax on his purity seal. Our black tempera is now dry, and I'm going to highlight all the tubes and rubber parts using Fenrisian grey. And now for the final highlight on the rubber parts, I'm going to do dots using Northland grey. Just place small dots in the middle of the previous highlight. When you do these kind of joints, try to align the dots with the general highlight on the leg. That will create a very consistent illusion of reflection. With the black rubber parts finished, I'm going to move into his face, hair and mask. And first of all, I'm going to take Fireslayer flesh and use it to draw a line between his hair and his face. We'll also do all the line that connects the hair to this piece of armor in the back. I'm now going to move into his mask, and for this I'm going to edge highlight it using a screaming skull. And now I'm going to move into the final highlight for the bone part. This is Pallid Witch flesh. With the bone parts now finished, also don't forget to do the purity seal. I'm going to move into his face. For this I'm using Flate 1 flesh. Just highlight all the prominent areas and features. Now I'm going to do another highlight on the skin using palette witch flesh. Now I'm going to take Volupus Pink. I diluted this heavily with Lamium Medium to create a glaze, and I'm going to glaze this over his scar. I will probably do another coat once this one dries. With his face now done, I'm going to move into his hair. For this I'm going to just highlight it, first of all, using Vestigor flesh. Vestigor flesh is a super orangey flesh tone which is perfect for red hair head. With the Vestigor flesh highlight finished, I'm going to do the final highlight using Angor flesh. And now I'm going to highlight the wax on the purity seal with Receptive Bone. Now I'm going to do the writing on the purity seal using Wildwood. Just very carefully do some squiggly lines. I will also do a very thin line of Wildwood separating both papers. With that last step done, it's time to move on into the leather. But first of all, notice I took the liberty to paint his eyes. I'm not sure if you can see them, but it's very hard to film painting eyes on camera. But if you want to see how I did them, check this video. And now for the leather, I'm going to use Granta fur all over the leather part. As always, work patch by work, back by back, section by section. Don't rush it, just try to be as neat as possible. While we wait for the Granta fur to dry, I'm going to base coat all the parts that will be black, and this will be his bolter casing and the short sleeve or thingy or whatever it's called. I'm using Mechanical Standard Grey. I will also take this time to base coat all the areas that will be gold. This will be the symbol on his chest and the guard of his knife. I'm using Retributor armor for this. The Gorgrunt affair is finally dry, and there are some areas where I really don't like how it's dried, because I feel it's a bit too light and I want to darken them. So I do a second coat on that part. I will avoid the edges this time. I will just apply it where I want it to be darker. Our leather is now ready for the highlights, and I'm going to start with Tau Light Ochre, and I'm going to do a full edge highlight with this all over the leather. Our highlight of Tau Light Ochre is now done, and I'm going to move to the next highlight. This will be Angor Flesh. I will just do the same I did before, only covering less area. And now for the final highlight on the leather parts, I'm going to use Bone. And I will just do small dots in the corners of all the leather. Our leather is now finished. I'm going to move into the parts that we base coated with Mechanical Standard Grey. I'm just going to do Black Templar all over them. When the Black Templar dries, I'm going to freehand the pack symbols on his right shoulder. I'm going to freehand the pack symbols using Flesh Tearers Red. If you mess up the armor like I did here, just go back to your highlight colors. But concentrate first on the freehand, because if you mess that up, that is going to be a pain to repair. You will probably have to paint all over that again. With the freehand of the markings done, I'm now going to highlight just the bottom edge of each marking using Wild Rider Red. With the Black Templar now dry, I'm going to move into highlighting those black parts, starting with a thick edge highlight of Thunderhawk Blue. Our highlight of Thunderhawk Blue is now done. I'm going to move into the next step. This will be Fenrisian Grey. Again, as an edge highlight, just covering less area than our previous one. Now to finish the black parts, I'm going to do a spot highlight using blue horror. With the black parts now finished, I'm going to base coat the last parts still remaining to paint, and that's all the silver metallic parts. For this I'm using Iron Breaker. Now our base coat of Iron Breaker and all the metallics is done. I'm going to move into shading all the gold details. For this I'm using Guilliman Flesh. This is straight out of the pot. And now I'm going to shade all the silver metallic areas using a mix of Black Templar and Contrast Medium, using 1 part Black Templar and 4 parts Contrast Medium. I always say this, but this mix has substituted Noon Oil for me. It's just better in any way, shape or form possible. Dries smoother and it has a very nice cold tint to it. For the blade of the knife, what I'm going to do is apply the contrast paint and then feather it out. You will see. I'm using pure Black Templar here. This now looks like a total mess, but trust me, this is going to look great when we're finished. Now I'm going to do it in the opposite direction using Iron Breaker. Apply the Iron Breaker, clean the brush, and feather it out. This will help clean the transition and provide a much smoother finish. The glazes of Iron Breaker are done. I'm going to edge highlight everything using, again, Iron Breaker. This is what will make the whole thing look like it should. With the TMM effect on the sword finish, starting to highlight all the metallics, and for this I'm using a Stormhost Silver. I will apply this all over the metallics. That includes all the silver parts, but also all the gold details too. With the metallics now finished, I'm going to do just a couple of small details here and there, and I'm using Flash Cirrus Red to apply the red over the center part of this grenade, and I will also do one of the buttons. I painted white the inside of the small clock thing that it has. I'm going to just paint the needle red. Now I'm going to do a Yanden yellow over the other two buttons. Once the Yanden yellow is dry, I'm going to do a small coat of warp lining over those buttons. Now I'm going to edge highlight the red part on this grenade using Wild Rider Red. And now I'm just going to do a very small highlight using Fire Dragon Bright. So with that last step done, the model is finished. I also took the liberty to finish his base, as you can see. If you want to see how I based him, go check this video. As always guys, I had a great fun painting this one, so I really hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye. Do you want to decide what I paint in the channel, or have any recipe that you want me to make for you? Then consider Patreon. I just opened a Patreon account. You have the link in the description below. Patreon will help me do all the cool projects that I want to make and help me improve the quality of my videos. Don't be afraid. No content will ever be hidden behind a paywall, but it's a nice way to help me, and you will get something back for your generosity. As I said guys, thank you very much for watching, and a special thank you to Gearhead James, Kevin Soulars, and Kit Leonard for being the coolest persons in the planet. Be like these fine folks, enjoy my Patreon, and take control.